Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Agriculture, Economics, and Rural Communities RFA Announcement and Technical Assistance webinar. Here are some meeting logistics. This webinar will be recorded, so please, since it's a webinar, your microphone's already muted. Zoom tech support is this number here. Throughout the presentation, you may type in questions within the chat box, in the Q&A box, I'm sorry. And slides and recordings from this webinar will be posted on the NIFA website. This is our non-discrimination statement. USDA is prohibited from discriminating based on these categories listed. Anyone with disabilities may request for reasonable accommodations. And to file a discrimination complaint, please adhere to the number, fax number, and mailing address listed here. All right, so this is our Agriculture, Economics, and Rural Communities programs. We have A1601, Small to Medium-Sized Farms, 1641, Economics, Markets, and Trade, 1642, Social Implications of Emerging Technologies, 1651, Environmental and Natural Resource Economics, and 1661, Rural Community Development. And under the program 1641, 42, and 51, here are our program staff who will introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Tuttle, and I'm a National Program Leader with NIFA, and I manage the Agricultural Economics programs, including 1641, 1642, and 1651.
Hello, my name is Gyami Shrestha. I'm a National Program Leader with the Agriculture Systems Divisions. I am the co-lead for A1642, Social Implications of Emerging Technologies.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Elston Giddings, and I'm a program specialist in agricultural systems within NIFA, and I support all of these programs.
And I am Aisha Magruder. I'm also a program specialist within agricultural systems. I assist in 1651 and anywhere else that I am needed. And within 1601, Small Mid-Sized Farms, we have Dennis Ebidage. He is our National Program Lead within agricultural systems. And we have Tiffany Woodson. She is the Program Specialist in agricultural systems as well. Rachel?
I am Rachel Seaman-Varner. I'm a co-national program leader on 1601 Small and Medium-Sized Farms with Dennis and Tiffany, and I will be here to talk about that program for our team.
And we have 1661 Rural Community Development. Sarah?
Hi there, Sarah Rocker, National Program Leader in the Division of Family and Consumer Sciences, NPL for the Rural Community Development. And I'm joined by my program specialist, Jess.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess Turner. I am a program specialist within the Division of Family and Consumer Sciences and Ag Economist for our AFRI Rural Community Development Program, A1661.
All right, thank you. To you, Gami.
Thank you, Aisha. So the topics that we will cover today include an overview of NIFA, an overview of the program that we'll be talking about today. We'll also be talking about the AFRI request for applications. And one of us will discuss the proposal evaluation process. And then we'll end with additional information and resources. And we will also have time for Q&As. at the end. So please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A box or hold your questions till the end. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, abbreviated as NIFA, is the extramural science funding agency within USDA's Research, Education, and Economics mission area. NIFA invests in and supports initiatives that ensure the long-term viability of agriculture. We provide funding and strategic leadership for programs that ensure groundbreaking discoveries in agriculture-related sciences and technologies that reach the people who can put them into practice. Next slide, please. NIFA covers many programs, and these are the main ones. We work on advanced technologies, animals, business and economy, natural resources, education, environment, farming and ranching, human sciences, food and nutrition security, international matters, and plants. And you will find more information about all of these topics that we cover on our website for USDA NIFA. Next slide, please. Thank you.
So I'm going to go through the different programs within AERC and grant types. So the purpose of the Agricultural Economics in Rural Communities program is to support economic and social science research related to topics within agriculture, including agricultural markets and international trade, social implications of food and agricultural technology, specifically new and emerging technology, commodity pricing, crop insurance, policy impact. We also look at market structure and performance within the food system. We support research on interactions between agriculture, the environment, and climate change, including natural resource economics. Specifically, 1661 looks at rural economic development and well-being in rural communities. We also consider food and nutrition security, including food retail and nutrition policy. And finally, we support research on consumer preferences and behavior. Next slide. So in order to be eligible to submit a proposal, you have to be a part of one of these institutions. So this includes colleges and universities, including junior colleges, University Research Foundation, state agricultural experiment stations, other research institutions and organizations, some federal agencies, national laboratories, private organizations or corporations, as well as individuals who are US citizens. So we have various different project types and grant types. So the project types include strict research. So there's no extension, right? It's just a research project. We also have education that does outreach to students and extension that does outreach to communities. Within AERC, we have research only and what we call integrated programs or projects, which include a combination of research and extension or research and education. But make sure when you look at the RFA to pay attention to what the specific project type is. In terms of grant types, we have standard grants. So these are for institutions, large institutions, or institutions that don't fall into a phase category. We also have strengthening or phase grants. These are grants intended for small to mid-sized institutions, minority serving institutions, and we also have new investigator grants. So if you have started your career within the past 5 years and you have a limited publication record, you may or likely qualify for a new investigator grant. We also have conference grants, which we'll talk about later, but these have a rolling submission. So these max at $50,000, and we can support a conference related to agriculture. And then finally, partnerships, which mean an institution such as a land grant institution, or really any institution, partners with an international institution, a minority serving institution, a small to mid-sized institution, or an institution in an EPSCoR state, which qualifies for a larger grant. Next slide. So in terms of conferences, how it works is you submit a letter of intent 195 days before the proposed conference start date. You submit that letter of intent to the national program leader for the program. The national program leader will look at the letter and determine if they want to invite you to submit a proposal. When they respond, you're able to submit your proposal 150 days before the proposed conference date. And from here, we facilitate an ad hoc panel, and then you'll find out if you are funded. But the due date listed in the RFA does not apply to conference grants applications. Next slide. So I told you about the project types. So rural and mid-sized farms are research and integrated projects. So you can do a project that combines research and extension, or research and education. Economics, markets, and trade, and environment and natural resource economics, those are research only, so they don't include extension. And then social implications, as well as rural economic development, like rural small to mid-sized farms, also are research or integrated. Next slide. So for cost sharing and matching, I often get emails about this, so I wanted to address this in the presentation. Rarely is matching required. It's only required if it's an applied research or integrated project that is commodity specific and not of national scope. So it is waived if the project, while it could benefit a specific commodity, is likely to be applicable to agricultural commodities and throughout the United States. Next slide. I think we are going over to Rachel.
Dr. Tuttle. Yes, so I'm Rachel Seaman-Varner. I'm the NPL with small and medium-sized farms, and I'm going to kick us off in a discussion about the application details. So these programs are available on page 75 of the RFA. That's where this program area starts. And we've covered what the different programs are, including small and mid-sized farms, economics, markets, and trade, social implications of emerging technologies, environmental and natural resource economics, and rural economic development. You can find the details in the RFA, and it's listed here. You can also search for AFRI RFAs and pull those up. Next slide, please. So the small and medium-sized farm program is a program area priority that focuses on developing tools and assisting land owners and decision makers on small and medium-sized farms. These strategies are focused on enhancing economic efficiency and sustainability, and are designed on a variety of different types of agricultural operations. The scope of this program area priority includes, but is not limited to, projects that deal with post-harvest handling, farm entry for young farmers, land tenure and air property, the processing of fresh fruits and vegetables, strategies for managing timberlands, local and regional food systems, market access, and new tools that are designed especially for small and medium-sized farms. Next slide, please. These applications are due on August 15th, and like all of these programs at 5 p.m. Eastern. The total funding that's available for this fiscal year is $6 million. And the maximum funding for a standard award is $650,000. For seed awards, it's $300,000, and for conference and equipment awards, it's $50,000. Next slide. I think I turn it back over to Dr. Tuttle for more details on 1641.
Sure, thank you. So 1641 is Economics, Markets, and Trade, and I call this the General Agricultural Economics Program. It is the largest of our programs and covers many ag econ topics. So these include agricultural markets and performance, competitiveness and international trade and domestic markets, production and resource use, consumer behavior and food retail, farm labor and topics related to farm labor and immigration and policy, agricultural policy design and impact, and finally, technological development and adoption. Next slide. So the application deadline for this program is October 3rd at 5 p.m. Eastern. This past year, the total amount of funding that was available was around 12 million. Very importantly, make sure that your program code, when you submit it to your grants office, is A1641, not within the outline, but 1641 is our code. And finally, the maximum funding is $650,000 per year. But it's important to note that if you do partner with an international institution, a small to mid-sized institution, a minority serving institution, or an institution in an EPSCoR state, you qualify for an extra $150,000 a year. But how it works is that extra $150,000 goes to the partnered institution. So if you're partnering with a small to mid-sized institution, they receive that $150,000. Not your own institution, but it is a way to expand the funding. Next slide. And then we have environment and natural resource economics. So this is supporting research that looks at economic theories and analysis related to ecosystem valuation, non-benefit valuation, conservation policy, a lot of mainly like the climate change topics we cover in this. So economics of climate change and mitigation policies and activities, ecosystem service valuation, enhancements, limitations, benefit transfer studies, as well as environmental policies. Next slide. So similar to A1641, we have a maximum funding of $650,000 per year, but you can qualify for an additional $150,000 if you submit a partnership. Last year, the total funding was $7 million, and our due date is in a couple months. It's September 12th. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Shrestha.
Thank you, Dr. Tuttle. So again, I'm Gyami Shrestha, National Program Leader within Ag Systems Division. And I'll be talking about the A1642 program area, which is social implications of food and agricultural technologies. The research project applications submitted to this program area, A1642, must address the following. They must assess the social, ethical, cultural, legal, and other potential impacts that a broad range of emerging and disruptive technologies, including breakthrough scientific discoveries, may pose for society, agricultural markets, agricultural communities, and rural prosperity, food manufacturing industry, consumer preferences, and other domains, and consider models for ameliorating challenges to the technologies. Second, the research project applications must also address and involve a range of individuals, including scientists, legal scholars, bioethicists, social scientists, and researchers from the humanities, the public, and other stakeholders to assess the technology's merits and risks and/or examine issues and modes of communication that can result in open and participatory approaches to effectively involve the public and engage with communities potentially impacted by the technology in deliberations over these issues throughout the lifespan of the project. The technologies and scientific advancements of interests include the following: the development and implementation of technologies with regard to climate smart agriculture and forestry practices, as well as measurement, monitoring, and mitigation of agriculture greenhouse gas emissions, applications of gene editing and gene drives in agricultural systems, application of nanotechnology in agriculture and food systems, analysis of big data and tools and approaches for collecting big data from agricultural producers, privacy and security implications for the collection, storage, availability, and sharing of big data on individuals, technologies, business, and/or communities, implications of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and predictive decision-making to society and agriculture and food systems, and implementation of autonomous technologies, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and systems within the agricultural production, food manufacturing, and supply chains. And again, the order that that's on the screen or that I talked about does not indicate importance. Application details. Social implications of food and agriculture technologies, A1642. The deadline for A1642 applications is Thursday, October 31st, 2024, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The total funding available is anticipated to be around 3,500,000. Please use the program code A1642 when submitting your PDF proposal. The maximum funding per award is 650,000 total per project for project periods of 3 to 5 years. An additional 150,000 may be requested for projects involving significant collaborations with minority serving institutions, small to mid-sized institutions, IPSCO state institutions, and/or international partners. All right, so Dr. Seman Varner is going to be, Dr. Sarah Roker is going to be talking about the next program. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'd like to share a bit about A1661, Rural Economic Development. We like to talk about this program as being everything beyond the farm gate. And as you can see here, what we mean by that is any kind of theoretical work or empirical applied work to create innovative approaches for advancing economic opportunities. In particular, this program focuses a lot on rural entrepreneurship, both at the individual level as well as the community level, with the aims here of demonstrating outcomes towards rural prosperity and well-being. So some of the sort of topics or foci of projects that we welcome in the applications are topics such as exploring placemaking, cultural amenities, the arts being components of that, and just overall the character of community. We also welcome applications that address identifying strategies for economic and entrepreneurial growth, particularly in regions that have extreme poverty. And this can be as a result of acute or longstanding crises, some of which we include here being the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, opioid abuse, mental health, suicide, etc. And finally, we really uplift and welcome inquiries on the topics of rural broadband infrastructure, both the deficit as well as the opportunities for what rural broadband infrastructure can bring to rural areas. So this might include things about the barriers to the deployment or the accessibility of broadband, as well as any factors that ameliorate the challenges. And what's cut off here, but is extemporaneated longer in the RFA, is all of the outcomes that rural broadband may affect, such as access to education, success in entrepreneurship, health, and otherwise. So again, this is a snapshot of our Beyond the Farm Gate Rural Economic Development Program. And the next slide here, I'll talk about the deadlines that we have for this program. As you can see here, it's September 12th. As my colleagues have reiterated, this is in Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Our total funding for FY24 is $3 million. Again, with similar funding amounts here, $650,000 total per project up to, and our program code to be aware of A1661. Back to Charlotte Tuttle. Thanks so much.
Finally, we have a couple of cross-cutting programs. This includes A1721, Extension Education and USDA Climate Hubs Partnerships. Generally, these grants are a little larger. They're close to $1 million. And the next due date is September 5th of this year. And then we also have interdisciplinary engagement in animal systems. That due date is coming up on October 3rd. Also a little larger awards. And note that the national program leader for A1721 is Amy Ganguly. So she would be the contact for that. And for A1261, it's Angelica Van Gore. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about key documents for your application, essentially the meat and potatoes of the application. This can be referenced on the RFA page 122. So for key components in your application, you'll need to include a project summary, an abstract, a project narrative, bibliography and references cited, a logic model, and this is just for integrated projects, along with a management plan for integrated projects. You need to include a data management plan, budget, and budget justification. And then other documents, sometimes they're tailored specifically to the programs, but you'll need to reference the RFA. And again, that's on page 122. Next slide, please. Okay, so key documents included. This is important to get your application through our NIFA screening. The project narrative is limited to 18 pages, which will be strictly enforced. Single line spacing, 12-point New Times Roman font, which includes text, figures, and tables. The tables may be single spaced. And within the 18 pages, we ask that you please describe a list of the headings and information required in the narrative, impact on the research, training infrastructure, or extension to achieve the goals, cooperation and institutional involvement, and then also a project timeline. Again, with the applications exceeding the page limit, they're going to be returned without review. So make sure you really pay attention to that page limit. Next slide, please. Application submission. We work through grants.gov, which NIFA does not own. And so a couple of the guidelines are a little bit different. NIFA only accepts electronic submissions. There is the hyperlink for the grants application guide. And then I think the biggest take home for the application submission, the biggest thing that I see on my end of the house on the technical side is please make sure all your documents are in PDF format. You can submit these on grants.gov. Not sure what kind of format justifications they have. I believe they do allow it, but NIFA does not allow any documents that are not in PDF format. Also, please do not use third-party PDF builders. And this can all be referenced in the RFA on page 120. Next slide.
Good morning again. So now that you have the meat and potatoes of the application, Let's talk about what happens when it gets to us and it goes to panel. So all the proposals are assigned for review to 4 reviewers, and this varies from program to program. Some have 3, but never less than 3, and some have 4. Then the reviewers will individually and independently, away from their panel colleagues, review each proposal that they have been assigned. And they then write reviews for those proposals, again, independently of their panelists. So they're not influenced by anything other than what they're reading in your proposals. They are also not allowed to research you beyond of what proposals you put in. Whatever you have in the proposal is the only data they're allowed to utilize when doing these reviews. The written reviews are used to begin panel discussions with the other reviewers serving on the panel. Through the discussions, the peer review panelists come to a consensus, and then they place that proposal on a ranking board. The merit of the application for science and research and education or extension is one of the largest for the evaluation criteria. Others are the qualifications of the project personnel, adequacy of the facilities, and project management. Again, if they happen to know your institution, know your facilities, that data cannot be utilized. You have to present it in your proposal for it to be countered. Project relevance to the sustainability of U.S. agriculture and/or program priorities. Please address the program priorities as you're going through the RFA. I cannot stress this enough. If you don't align your priorities with the priorities of the program, that can diminish your review. After the application's been assessed for strengths and weaknesses, the overall likelihood that the project will have a significant outcome and impact is then evaluated. The timeline for competitive programs. So the RFA is released, proposal writing and planning, and then proposals are due. 2 to 3 months, proposals under peer review, proposal funding notifications. And then 1 to 2 months after that, awards are finalized. Average is 3 to 5 months. Those of you who may have submitted last year know that there are outside influences that we cannot control that will impact this timeline. This year's review, or this year's notifications and even reviews, didn't go out for about 5 months. And that was outside of our control due to congressional allocation delays. The PD submits, this is for conference grants that Charlotte mentioned earlier. Again, it's a rolling deadline. It is not a hard deadline that's listed in the RFA for standard grants. The PD will submit a letter of intent and a proposal 195 and 150 days before the proposed conference, respectively. The MPL will then create an ad hoc panel, meaning she or he will seek out peer reviewers to review your proposal for a conference independently, and it will not be seen in panel. There are occasions in which it comes in about the same time as panel, but by and large, it's always going to be ad hoc reviews. The reviews come back to us, and they are the MPL goes over the reviews, determines if, based on the ratings and the rankings, if it's going to be funded, and then you're notified accordingly. All right, I think it's going to go back to Rachel.
So I'm just going to be kind of wrapping up our webinar with some additional information and resources. Next slide, please. So we do have just a number of resources, some of which Lynn has already dropped into the chat with the links. These links are also here listed in the presentation and available. There is a full listing of competitive funding opportunities at the top link. You can also look at the competitive grants flow chart and how the process progresses. There are other resources for grant training. If you go to that link where the NIFA grant resources are, there are webinars and technical assistance documents. We have a policy guide available, a guide to claiming indirect costs, and also a guide for preparing and submitting applications through grants.gov. Next slide, please. And you can contact any of the national program leaders on the programs that you're interested in applying to with some specific questions. Their emails are here, usually adding some description of your project idea, a page summary or so, often helps us to direct you to the right program or answer questions relevant to the program that we're leading. So feel free to reach out directly, and we have plenty of time for questions and answers. So please put your questions in the chat box or prepare your questions in your mind, and we can come off mute. Or actually, I don't think we have that ability, do we? So do drop your questions in the Q&A box, and Aisha Magruder will be kind of moderating those questions as the panelists engage here too. So thank you very much for your attention and for your participation. We look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Rachel. We have one question. Could you please clarify requirements for a CV? It seems like it's a 2-page limit without publications.
Yes, I just wanted to confirm that it is a 2-page limit without the publications.
Okay. Waiting on more questions. Has the requirement for a mentoring plan been removed? Anyone wants to take that question?
I think the best advice is to look at the current RFA, which Lynn just posted, and read through that to get that mentoring information. And I'm just reaching out quick to someone to verify.
I just to tag in here, I'll place the link in the chat. I just found where there is the mentoring, the plan from FY23, but we need to confirm on FY24.
Okay, thank you. Do you require having preliminary data for a standard grant?
I can answer that one. Yes, we need preliminary data on standard grants. That's a scientific piece on that.
This is just to add on, which is why seed grants are a good option if there isn't preliminary data, because it allows you to gather that preliminary data in an effort to prepare yourself for a standard grant.
Our 1661 project will have many community partners. Are letters of support allowed?
I can answer that. Yes, I would encourage you to include letters of support in your proposal, in your application package.
Touching
you.
back on the mentoring plan, I just have confirmation 2024. Yes, it is now required in all applications. That includes undergraduate students, graduate students, and doctorate scholars.
Thank you. Are seed grants available if I am not a new investigator?
Yes. You can submit a seed grant, even if you're not a new investor.
Are appendix allowed for a seed grant narrative, given that it is only 7 pages?
I don't believe so, but I'm just confirming with AFRI leadership for that question, but I don't think so. But I will get back.
Thank you. I believe there is a limit of 2 seed grants per PI's life.
I can confirm that's correct.
For other AFRI programs, I was told that I am not eligible for a seed grant. I am not a phased institution. I am not at a phased institution. Is this correct, Charlotte or Jess?
I can speak to that. Anyone can apply for a seed grant. If you need further information, please contact myself or Charlotte Tuttle after this call.
Lynn, could you display the emails, the contact information? Thank you. The 2 seed grant limit, is it across all programs or within your program specifically? I had a seed grant before in a different NIFA program, A1344.
Can
That
you
might
see
be
those now? And I'll scroll down to the others as well. I'll just leave them there for a second and keep moving.
I'm just going to jump in and share that on page 7 of the RFA, we have these 2024 updates, and there's actually some reference to all of the ins and outs of seed grants. That is one good resource, page 7, for some of these nuanced questions. I'll also let my colleagues take that if they have experience with answering this specific question.
To tag on to what Sarah said about the seed grants and the different programs, please go and look at the RFA and where Sarah referenced. But with the different programs, you have to understand that there's different ideas, there are different programs and different concepts, different projects all together. So if you're applying for a seed grant with one idea, you're not going to be able to apply for it the same idea in a different program. So it's 2 per program essentially, because your project's going to change. I don't know if it's spelled out that way, but that's my take on understanding of it.
I think I just wanted to offer, as we're waiting to see if there's any last questions coming in, that as program leaders, we oftentimes receive and welcome substantive questions about topical fit. So as each of us on this webinar earlier today talked about the various sub-priorities of this program that we represent, and as you're seeing our emails up here on the screen, we would welcome that if you have a more nuanced question regarding the topical fit of the scope of your proposed project, that you can reach out to us via email and request a conversation. Again, I think one of my colleagues mentioned early on, it does help if you've got some ideas that you already have written down, but we also are happy to meet with you one-on-one. That's part of what we do as national program leaders. And again, we can have those more topical conversations in a nuanced one-on-one fashion after this call and before the deadline at the end of the summer. If there are no other questions, I'm wondering to my team and colleagues, are we considering closing out for today? And is there any other additional information that we'd like to share with our attendees?
Looks like one more question jumped in. Aisha, do you want to grab that?
Mm-hmm. It looks like mentoring plans are required for EWD programs, but not for FAS programs. Please clarify.
Go ahead.
Charlotte, I was going to go ahead, and from what I'm seeing from the RFA, mentoring plan is now required for all applications across the board, undergrad student, grad students, postdoctorate scholars.
Do you have an update on the question on the appendix for seed grants?
So I think that question was to one of our colleagues who was pinging maybe our management team staff. If we don't have that answer right now, I'm wondering if this person who's anonymous would be willing to type in your email address to either Lynn or one of our hosts so that we could follow up with you when we do get that question answered. And I'll ask my team if there's anyone else that has heard back from our management colleagues on that clarity about the appendix.
I have not heard.
Okay, so for our anonymous attendee, we apologize for the group to not have that wisdom shared right here live, but if you would go ahead and leave your email address with our host, we can get that answer back to you. Thank you.
I just added the location of that in the chat. I'm not sure if that went through. I believe it did. It's page 8 of the link that I just sent, and I will put that in the main chat as well.
And we got the email for the anonymous attendee. I'm going to make sure that gets to Charlotte. Or you can see these two, can't you, Charlotte?
Yep, I am getting an answer.
Okay, good.
And also touching base on the seed grants, on the appendix that I just brought up, seed grants are not renewable. Seed grant awardees may receive no more than 2 seed grants for different projects. So confirming different projects within any 5-year period.
From the FAS RFA Mod 3, this information has been redlined and they list all the things that was redlined within the RFA.
Regarding the mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fantastic information. If we want to discuss further, to actually get to the root of this and find out for sure, what I quoted was from the FY23 RFA. That's what I was able to bring up real quick. So anonymous attendee, I can put my my email address in the chat and I can get a solid confirmation answer to you from AFRI leadership.
So I think we're sitting tight while we wait for one more piece of information regarding the appendix question, just to let folks know we are in the background consulting on that and inviting any last questions from attendees here. We recognize it's a long RFA, so we're sitting tight for a few more minutes to give folks time to look through and post your question live.
Okay, so you can submit appendices with your seed application, but I want to remind you that the purpose of seed applications is to allow you to collect preliminary data, and it is a smaller project, right? It is not equivalent to a standard project. So it should not require the same amount of, the page limit, et cetera. So make sure you understand that the purpose of the seed is the beginning of a project. You don't need the amount of information that you need for the standard project. It's really important when you are submitting the seed application that you aren't using the appendices to circumvent the 7-page limit. Right? So that's critical because that is something that the panel will look at and we will look at. If there are no other questions, then I think we can end this webinar. Please reach out to any of us with specific program questions if you do have them. We're happy to set up meetings and discuss any other questions that you have. So with that, I think I'm going to close out for everyone. Thank you for attending, and good luck this year with the application process. Thank you. You need